Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Work Show, and I'm here with my friend Sid for another interesting lightning round. Sid, for those of you that don't know him, very sharp guy. He's an information technology professional. His titles recently have been things like solutions engineer and solutions architect, solutions lead. Super interesting guy. If you have any interest in technology at all, this is going to be a fascinating discussion. So welcome back. Again, remember that the lightning round, which is what we're doing here, is designed for those of us with a short attention span. So we're going to be hitting Sid with 15 questions in 5 minutes. And Sid is going to sweat and be stressed and try and give answers in 20 seconds or less, if my math is right. How's that sound, Sid?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right.
This is going to be fun. Sid is, not only does he have some impressive education and work experience, but just an interesting guy in general. So like I say, if you have interest in technology, this will be really insightful. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start the clock at 5 minutes and we'll get through the lightning round. When people hear the word architect, they probably think of building a house or building some kind of building. What exactly is a solutions architect?
So solutions architect is a guy who understands the technology landscape from a systems perspective, at a customer or, at a particular place, and has the capability of determining what systems fall in what place, how do they integrate with each other, how does the end-to-end, solution come into place, and, eventually solves the problem. That, in short, would be the best way to describe it.
Awesome. What is your why? So in other words, why do you work in technology?
I think in the last 20 years, technology has been pretty transformational, more than 20 years in terms of what it has done to the world. It has impacted our lives, the way we communicate, the way we, mobilize. And so I think it's probably one of the biggest tools for us as a community to, grow and, further augment our skills.
Awesome. What's one thing that you've learned from your college education that's really helped you to be successful working in technology?
So I think engineering taught me a very analytical mindset about how to look at things from a very methodical perspective. Whereas I think my management, degree helped me understand how to, communicate with people. So you might be very analytical, but you may not be the best communicator. So I think that was a good mix of the two skills that I got from both of my degrees.
Very cool. In a typical day, how many hours would you say you spend working directly on a computer versus working with other people?
On a computer versus other people is like 50-50, especially when you're in a function that I am in, which is where you have to always interact with customers, stakeholders, but at the same time, you have to spend some time understanding the technology, reading documentation, reading about it, getting yourself acquainted with it, and finding, a solution.
Right. Okay. What are a few characteristics that you think make a great solutions lead or solutions architect?
I think it's, as I mentioned in the previous question, it's a mix of both, being able to understand a problem, analyzing it in a methodical way, not just looking at technology as a leverage to solve the problem, but looking at multiple different levels to be able to solve that problem. So having a deep understanding of technology helps because, that's your major tool for solving problems, but then you should know what the problem is at the end of the day. And that comes from talking to people.
Very cool. Can you describe a successful day of work as a solutions architect?
Yeah, I think successful day at work is when when your solution works. At the end of the day, you see it in action. You see it actually solving the problem. It's beautiful, to see that kind of setup and see it run for a long amount of time without failing, which is oftentimes hard.
Okay. What was your first job working in information technology?
So I started working as a tech consultant at Deloitte. I was basically building automation solutions for banks. So that was primarily my first job.
Very cool. So in a typical day, what are 3 things that we might find you doing as a solutions architect?
3 things that you might find me doing. So first of all, the first thing would be talking to a lot of people, to understand the problems and the problem statements. Second thing would be researching on technologies or researching on capabilities and different tools. And then third thing would be, sitting, and thinking about it, putting it all together and seeing which technology fits what tool. And the fourth thing I would say is documentation, which is not always the fun part, but you have to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you find most challenging about working in technology?
I think the most challenging part is sometimes being very close to the problem. Is when you're super close to the problem, you always look at technology as a lever to solving problems. You can solve problems via just other techniques like process reengineering, for example. So oftentimes getting into that silo and that mindset, is bad and something, that is very tough to get out of.
Okay. Okay, so what are some ways that you measure success in a solution that you've designed?
I think the key metric to success is it is doing what it's designed for, which goes back to is it solving the problem and how efficiently is it solving it. So for example, for an automation solution, that would be, is it really impacting someone's day by, helping increase their productivity or helping increase or reducing the number of, manual effort that they do, and, they can do something which is more cognitive and a lot better.
What's one thing that you personally do to be sure that you continue to improve in your work?
I think one thing that I personally do is never stopping to learn new technologies, because technology is such a transient, profession. You oftentimes have to learn almost on a daily basis. There's always something new coming up. It's growing at a really fast speed. And so I think if you don't stop learning, you won't be outdated with your knowledge of technology, and it's very essential.
Right. What's one misconception that you think people have about a career in information technology?
I think people always think that information technology people will always be in front of a screen and would, for the most part, would be coding, which is oftentimes the biggest misconception. Not everyone in technology actually codes, and if everybody codes, that's actually bad for the bigger industry. You oftentimes need people who can take a step back and think through things more methodically, which is where solutions architects and product managers, those kind of roles come into play.
That's awesome. Sid, I have some really good news for you. You're going to be really surprised by this, but you survived the lightning round. So, woohoo! I'd actually bet against you. I didn't think you were going to. No, I'm just kidding. Of course. I knew you would. I knew it. That's awesome, Sid. You did great. And man, 15 questions. There are definitely some themes in there that we'll get into in the extended interview for sure. Okay. I heard some themes. I noted them down. But that was awesome. I think a lot of people listening to this that have some interest in technology, maybe they're not familiar with those roles like solution architect or solution engineer. You also mentioned a few things about robotics. I know you've got experience working in process automation. I'm sure we'll dive into those in the next session. But thank you so much for being victorious, being valiant, and getting through the lightning round.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so for everyone else, stay tuned for the next session where we get into an extended interview with Sid. Thanks, Sid.
Perfect. Thank you.